and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Hi, I'm Christopher Werner from Christopher Werner Designs, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hello, I'm Logan Shell. I'm a proud coaster enthusiast and fourth-year ride operator at Kings Island, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi, I'm Matt Hill from Operation Theme Park, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi, this is Leah Cook-Bloomhart from Holiday World and Splash and Safari, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Yes, I accept the Coaster Challenge. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Coaster Challenge podcast is here. It's time to face your fears. Get that theme park therapy and lend us both your Coaster Challenge podcast is here. Your fear can disappear. We know that theme park therapy can dry up all your tears. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Yes, I accept the Coaster Challenge. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? We accept because you know we're not average.
You're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast. A journey where people become fearful to fearless, all from riding roller coasters. So please secure your hats and glasses and keep your hands and arms inside the podcast. It's time to accept the Coaster Challenge with your host, Andrew Locke.
Hi, everyone. This is Andrew, one of the executive producers of the Coaster Challenge podcast. As enthusiasts, the vast majority of us keep track of our coaster credits, how many coasters we've been on. Some enthusiasts, however, also keep track of how many times they've rewritten some of their favorite coasters. There are a few better authorities in this department than our guest today. The Coaster Challenge podcast is proud to welcome the Fury guy, McLain Waddell. Welcome, McLain.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. So, with that intro, we're going to get into some more details later on, but why don't we start off with you introducing yourself and just go ahead and tell everyone what your current count is, your current ride count is on Fury 325.
Sure. So my name is McLain Waddell, better known as the Fury guy to most of the coaster folks. I've always kind of had a love for coasters since I was younger. Definitely enjoyed coasters, but during the college or right after high school frame, I didn't ride anymore and thought I would never ride again. And until, of course, a world-breaking, record-breaking coaster opened in the backyard. I mean, gosh, why not? I got to ride it. Has been kind of all history since then. Just got 15 laps in tonight. Actually, some with Kim Dykes, which was outstanding. Brought my total count to 8,934 after today. 8,934.
Just shy of 9,000 rides.
Yeah, I'll probably cross 9,000 this coming Sunday if I had to guess. And the park's usually pretty good about giving me a Zen ride or calling it out or making a kind of big deal about it, which I can't wait for.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I know the ride ops really are, they work with you well there and they appreciate you and kind of a celebrity there. But yeah, wow, 9,000 rides. I mean, I only keep track of re-rides on one coaster. I've not really done that before. I guess I've kind of been inspired by people like yourself and others.
Right.
And it's on one of the newest coasters I've ridden, one that only opened last year. So I'm only in the hundreds, heading towards 200 rides on Velocicoaster. And the only reason why I keep track is that's my number one. It's the first time I thought when a coaster became my number one to start keeping track. It's my home park 5 minutes away. And, kind of like, but Fury's very close to you.
Yep.
But one of my close friends here in Florida, one of my Thuzy friends, well known in the Thuzy community, Raptor Joe. She lives in Orlando.
I love her to death.
Yeah, that's right. She knows you. You see whenever Fury's are number one. So she comes and sees you. Yeah, absolutely. You know her, of course. She used to work at SeaWorld and worked Mako and still goes to SeaWorld all the time, even though she doesn't work there anymore. And she's I think heading towards 4,000 rides on Mako. And granted, Mako's a few years newer than Fury, but she worked there. I mean, she had the opportunity to, for several years to work there and be on that ride, working that ride. And I thought her, sub 5,000 rides was incredible, but you're almost double that. That's amazing. And I know there's reasons other than, just pleasure. Why you ride Fury so much. And we'll get into that later because I'm very fascinated, very interested to talk about that. But thank you for introducing yourself and thanks again for joining us. And thanks for making this a very much a Coaster Challenge day, not just, here sitting down with me for this interview, but earlier this evening, going on Fury, lapping Fury dozen or so times, 15 times, with another producer of the show, of course, Kim Dykes. That's awesome. I know Kim's been having a great road trip, so that's thanks for joining her. All right, well, before we get into and dive into your love of Fury and how what Fury does for you in your life, let's talk about earlier on. Like you said, you loved coasters when you were younger and all that.
Yes.
So to that end, what was either the first coaster that you rode, or at least the first one you remember riding?
Yeah, the first coaster, it was a unique story because I wasn't really wanting to ride coasters. I was pretty young, but my family always, we had a sister family that we always would vacation with and go to the beach every single year. Me and my brother, and that family had 2 girls, so we were about the same age. The 4 of us were brothers and sisters. It was really awesome. We vacationed every year at Myrtle Beach. So back when I was younger, I don't know if you're familiar, but the pavilion at Myrtle Beach used to be a small little amusement park.
Yep.
And we would love, my favorite ride was called the Rainbow. It was just a little ride, one of those that went up and around, kind of a big platform. Loved that ride.
Oh yeah.
I loved the raft ride, like Hydro Surge was all these memories from the pavilion. But Corkscrew, the coaster, it was a looping aero coaster. I was deathly afraid of it, but I knew I wanted to ride as soon as I got tall enough, even though I'd watched it for years and kind of scared. But it definitely was the very first one that I ever rode. And I've even got a few pictures my parents have given me over the last years of, hey, here's pictures from your first ride on Corkscrew. Definitely unique, but a great ride. I still kind of remember and reminisce, get sad every time I go to Myrtle Beach and see that big open plot of land where this beautiful amusement park used to be, and just kind of shed a tear for it.
Yeah.
What a great memory.
Yeah, nostalgia. I hear you on that. So have you you lived in that kind of the North Carolina, South Carolina area all your life?
Yeah. I lived in upstate, in Easley, South Carolina, near Pickens, for the first probably 10, 13 years of my life, then moved up to Fort Mill, South Carolina, right outside of Charlotte, actually where Carowinds is, from early middle school on, and lived there until I went off to college. So definitely been a Carolina boy, my whole life. But yeah, that's also why I'm such a big Carowinds fan, because my parents still live about a mile and a half from Carowinds, which is
that's
prime
really
location. Yeah,
really close. Okay, so I have to ask, you probably know I'm probably going to ask the questions I'm asking right now. Did you ever get to go to Hard Rock Park, Freestyle Park?
I've never been.
Oh, okay. So was that maybe that era where you weren't really into coasters?
Most likely, yeah. I mean, like right after, my senior year of high school is when I had my car accident, unfortunately. And from there on, I was really just focused on recovery, into rehab, handful of different rehabs. And then I went off to school, and from that point on, almost coasters were just a back burner thought for me. I didn't even think about them, didn't have passion for them, didn't want to go to them. So it's kind of lucky that I stumbled upon Fury, but really glad I did.
Got it. And if you don't mind, I know some of us, we don't like to share our age, so you don't have to, you can say no to this question, but what year was it that you graduated high school?
03.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was 5 years or so before Hard Rock Park opened. So that makes sense. Yep. The timing lines up. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I've only met, I think 2 people in my life that got to go to either Hard Rock or Freestyle, have those very rare credits, and kind of jealous of them. So anyways, okay. Well, so let's move forward a little bit from the Corkscrew. Sure. And maybe the answer to this question is the Corkscrew, because, you mentioned that, you didn't want to ride it and so forth, but, maybe it's a different ride. Maybe it's Fury. But what coaster in your life has scared you the most, has intimidated you the most?
It's probably going to be close between Corkscrew and SheiKra, down in Busch Gardens, Tampa.
Right.
Corkscrew, I don't remember quite as much, because unfortunately I don't remember a lot previous accident, and that's not a big deal, but from what I've been told, I had to build up a lot of confidence to ride Corkscrew. After that, I really didn't ride rides at all. I met my partner while I was in college in Orlando. I went to Full Sail University there in Orlando.
Nice.
And when I was nearing completion, I met my partner. And, something to do was, hey, let's go to Busch Gardens. Oh gosh, yeah, I haven't ridden a coaster in years. Yeah, I used to love them. Why don't I head that way? Or why don't we give it a shot? So we went, and I didn't really like coasters. Realistically, coasters kind of still freaked me out. But SheiKra was newer, and I thought, gosh, okay, let's go. Let's ride it. I definitely had to psych myself up to ride it. Tried to ride all the other rides first. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for it. Kind of freaked me out. It was the first time I rode one of the drop coasters. So the whole vertical drop thing kind of weirded me out. And I loved it and hated it at the same time. It kind of made me, I got so much anxiety or so much just, I guess, energy from it that it made me a little sick. I had to tell my partner, hey, sorry, I don't want to ride anymore. But we walked around the park, I calmed down, and then I rode it a few more times, and it was definitely fun. So I would say that for modern times, that would be probably the one I was most scared of or most afraid to get on.
Okay, and it had to be fairly recently because SheiKra's not that old. Like, what year was that? Do you think?
I graduated in 06 or 07 from college, so it was 06 or 07.
Okay, so right before you left. Yeah. By the way, Full Sail is a fantastic school.
Absolutely.
One of my friends, Jake, he's really into film. He's not, in Hollywood or anything like that. He's more doing kind of amateur stuff for fun. He's a stay-at-home father, husband, and he's really dedicated to his kids. He's a great guy. And this is his wife, Jess, who's they're both coaster enthusiasts. Anyways, but he went to Full Sail here in Orlando, and
very cool.
And I've other friends that have been there and gone there, and amazing school for the arts, for video games, for film production. I know they have really good facilities for film, for TV production and whatnot. But that's really cool. You went there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was about 15, 16 years ago. Got it.
Right.
Okay. So what was the height of SheiKra? Was that a part of the fear of it, the anxiety?
Yes. It was really, I hadn't done it in a long time. So I was doubting myself, doubting the height. And I think just being on any modern coaster, I almost didn't want to, I had to be pulled on, and thank God my partner got me on it. But I just didn't have the urge to go on it. I was like, oh yeah, I've done that before. I used to be big on it. But yeah, it was a little intimidating.
Gotcha. Okay. So I guess the overall thing you're saying is that you just hadn't been on coasters in a long time and it just intimidated you, but would it be, if you had to pick out an aspect of SheiKra, if we kind of break down a coaster, you have the how long you're on it, inversions, which
I would probably have to say it was the drop, being the 90-degree or whatever, the drop ride.
Right.
I'd never been on a drop ride before. I used to like roller coasters. I thought, oh yeah, coasters are fine, but gosh, I've never seen something that holds you on a drop as you're looking down and then you're just gone, and that definitely was the scary part for me.
Okay. Got it. But like, as far as the drop goes, and there's reasons why I'm trying to dig into this, so just bear with me.
Yeah. You're fine.
Yeah. So as far as the drop goes, the height is a part of that, right? It was, you're looking down. Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. We'll revisit this in a little bit, but I was just curious there. So, okay. So you felt that intimidation, everything, and you didn't want to go on it, but you wound up going on it. And you mentioned that you felt sick afterwards. Was it a physical sick or?
Yeah. It was kind of an upset stomach. And I didn't really, it's like, oh gosh, my body wasn't used to it. So my body was telling me, hey, that's not something that we normally do. Maybe don't do it again.
Right.
But it definitely went away and subsided after a bit. So it wasn't something that stuck with me.
Got it. And you said you went back on it multiple times later that day, right?
Yep. I think we went on another 2 or 3 times that night.
Got it. So the upset stomach aside, I want to look at the mental side of things inside your head and whatnot. How did you feel after you got off SheiKra that first time mentally?
I liked it. I'll tell you, nothing has given me the same feeling as Fury.
Sure.
So it really wasn't life changing or anything for me there at that moment. But it made me feel validated to myself that, okay, yeah, I can ride these. It's not a big deal. I can ride more coasters if I want to. So definitely felt more confident in myself and the ability to ride coasters.
Got it. So it kind of brought your confidence back about coasters post your accident. Right. Okay. Did you feel like, in any way exhilarated or feel happy that you conquered your fear?
From what I can remember, yeah, I was happy that I got on it. I was happy that we even went to, Tampa Bay and actually got it. Got the chance to go to Busch Gardens, because that wasn't a thought that I would have had. But I'm glad I went. I'm sad and think I wouldn't have gone had I not met my partner. So yeah, it was all good.
Interesting. Do you think if your partner in that suggested that you would be here today, first of all, talking to me today, but sub 9,000 rides on Fury?
Right. Honestly, I don't know. I would probably have to say no, because even here in Charlotte, when Intimidator opened up, when he actually moved back up to Charlotte with me, I met him in Orlando, and I didn't ride coasters when we got back up here. We didn't get passes or anything for Carowinds. I didn't have that. But then Intimidator opened, and he was like, "Hey, dude, it's a world-breaking coaster, record-breaking coaster. Come on, backyard. Let's at least make one trip." We made one trip for Intimidator. I liked it. It was a good ride, but didn't give me enough of anything to really say, okay, I need to do it again. I need to go back. And we didn't get season passes. And then same thing a few years later, Fury opens, and he was like, "Hey, bud, come on, we got to go." And Fury, it's world record breaking coaster. We have to go ride it. So I went and rode it the one time, and I mean, it's all downhill from there. Really, the first time I was on Fury, I noticed something and I could feel it, and have slowly been honing that over the last few years. It's pretty amazing.
Interesting. So who was the one that said, "Hey, it's going to be a record-breaking coaster for new Intimidator. We should go"? Was it you or your partner?
It was, I mean, he posed the idea, and I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. It definitely, I mean, honestly, it wouldn't have crossed my mind, and I wouldn't have probably put 2 cents into it. Moving back up here, we moved back up here because I found a job, out of school, and I thought, hey, that's why I'm going back. It wasn't for Carowinds, and honestly, had we not gone, that time or even back again for Fury, I didn't have season passes. I wasn't planning on going. That was something I did when I was a kid. I don't live with my parents anymore. Come on, so. Right.
So he made the suggestion, but and you went along with it. You're like, "Oh, sure, why not? Let's do it." But it sounds like, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so just confirm if this is the case.
Yeah.
That you breaking your fears or overcoming your fears on SheiKra allowed you to be comfortable with the idea that he suggested about getting on Intimidator.
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, I had to psych myself up for Intimidator. I wasn't ready for it. I had little mental triggers to help me and like point with the ride and kind of drive the ride or whatever, and that was me being okay with it. It definitely wasn't as comfortable as it is now.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm so glad I did it. I'm glad I crossed the path.
Got it. So yeah, so it really impacted your life in terms of kind of getting you comfortable with coasters again, which basically started the dominoes falling from there, which we'll get into some of the more important dominoes here in a few minutes. But
yeah, sure.
Okay. So one question that we ask, kind of taking a further step back from what we're talking about right now, maybe like as they say, the 30,000 foot level, is we ask the question, which I don't want you to answer yet, so just bear with me.
Sure.
We ask the question, have coasters and theme parks had a significant positive impact on you in any other ways? Now, I want to talk about Fury later. So I know there's that special thing about Fury that you and I've talked offline about. Yeah. But besides that, is there any other answers you could think of for that question I just mentioned?
Probably one. After my accident, and actually before my accident, I suffered from mental stigmas, had different diagnoses when I was younger and tried different medications and things, but was always kind of socially awkward. Didn't like large places, didn't like a lot of people. And then the accident kind of exacerbated that and made it to a point where I was very introverted and didn't want to go out, didn't want to venture or anywhere where people were. You know, the ability to have something like Fury that's so impactful for me, you know, really changed my life on another level, because I have more confidence going to public places alone. I have more confidence, you know, being myself in a place that I've never been, around hundreds or thousands of people that I've never been around before, which is pretty amazing. And I would say I attribute a lot of that to being able to carry myself normally, so to speak, in a large theme park setting by myself. So yeah, I mean, I attribute a lot of that, if not all of that, to me getting back out into the coaster world, or into the Fury world.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah. Would you say that you became more outgoing as well as a result of this?
Yeah. On a personal level, yes. Yeah, I've always been in retail management, or kind of market management, for the job side. So I've always had a decent way to just put on a mask and kind of be that, you know, that fake happy person, always you know, sociable and talking, but I would say never real. It was always fake. But yes, it's definitely allowed me to meet friends and actually have people outside of the work life that I'm like, oh gosh, I have coaster buddies now. I have friends that live out of state that know me, that follow me, that see me on Facebook, and, you know, start conversations. I don't think any of that would have ever happened or come to life without coasters.
Right. That's excellent. Yeah, that's something I've noticed in myself, and as well as others that I've talked to, friends and whatnot, is that it's kind of something you wouldn't expect from coasters, that as you get involved with, you know, riding coasters, you're riding a lot, going to the parks a lot, that a lot of us, myself included, you know, I never was really an introverted person per se, but definitely have become more extroverted. Especially over the past few years, as I've really gotten involved in the community and going to parks a lot more and traveling a lot more. I feel like more daring, and I don't just mean that in I'll go ride a sky coaster, or I'll go ride the tallest slingshot, you know, which I did earlier this year, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's just cool. In terms of day to day, in terms of carrying myself, and, you know, just being, you know, not being afraid to be me, and, you know, and be weird if that's the case, in SKTV. But so I think that's a great kind of hidden benefit, if you will, of being, you know, whether it be being a coaster enthusiast, or even if you don't identify yourself as one, but just be going on the coasters, being at the parks a lot, being in public a lot. I think that's a nice benefit. So, okay, well, yeah, that's all great, and we're going to get to a key benefit, or a key impact that coasters, especially Fury, have had on your life here in a little bit. But before we get to that, let's talk about a few more questions, a few more other things. So I'm guessing this is going to be on Fury, or maybe it was on a different coaster. I don't know. I mean, odds are in Fury's favor here. But what has been your craziest moment on a coaster?
And yep, it's on Fury, of course. You know, I've had the luxury in the almost 9,000 laps to be e-stopped or emergency stopped in almost every section that you can be e-stopped on the ride. And the probably craziest moment overall would have to be the very first year it opened. I didn't get a ton of rides on it, but about 3/4 into the season, the whole park had a power outage, a big power outage. Ooh. Windseeker was stuck about halfway up. Fury was 3/4 of the way up on the lift, and luckily that's where I was. You know, so only, I would say only maybe 150 rides in total, which I thought was crazy and out of this world, and I can't believe it. And I get stuck. You know, it was exhilarating. It was fun. It was awesome for the first 10 or 15 minutes. After about then, it was like, wait a minute, how long are we going to be up here? We were up there for a little over an hour, and just kind of sitting there, nothing to do. You know, and I'm sure coaster operators have a big decision to make. You know, how long do they stay up there before we start walking them down this huge lift, or hopefully get the power back on and push them over. But a little over an hour, you know, you started seeing things in the park light back up, and oh great, you know, we're about to move, and then you hear Fury start back up, that big old diesel engine or whatever down at the bottom, and then up and over we go. But I would say that was probably my craziest moment, or most exhilarating moment even, on Fury.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've never gotten stuck on a lift hill of a coaster. I've gotten stuck at the bottom of the second lift after dropping down of a boomerang, first gen boomerang, right before the loop. And I've gotten stuck on a launch, on an LSM launch, Velocicoaster, actually, its boost launch last year. But I've never gotten stuck on a lift hill, let alone, pretty high up on one of the tallest lift hills in the world. So that's pretty crazy. Now, was that, to your knowledge, just based on what you saw going on that day, was that weather related? Like, were there storms in the area?
No.
Okay.
No. And I forgot exactly what it was, but if I remember correctly, there was a fairly large car accident right outside the park that hit some big transformers or something, and like that whole portion of Fort Mill, South Charlotte, just blackout for a good 2 hours, and then slowly an hour and a half and stuff started just kind of popping back on.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah, my parents, even a mile and a half down the road, had a power outage at the same time. We kind of joked about it afterwards.
Gotcha. Oh, interesting. Okay. And maybe you were just guessing as to what happened or how they fixed it, but you said after an hour, they got the coaster going again. You mentioned a diesel motor. What do you think that they used a generator to start it up again?
No, I don't think they popped on the generator. They've got one, but just I guess the motor of Fury. It just sounds like a diesel. It definitely is not one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's electric. Right.
But the big old rumble of Fury starting back up.
So they got power back, basically.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Gotcha. Was it a pretty full train?
Yeah, I would say 3/4 of the way or more full. And there were definitely some crying people or screaming people or get me off of this train, get me off. I mean, it got interesting.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, you kind of saw where I was going with that. So, like, was anyone like freaking out, from the height perspective, or?
Yeah, from what I remember, absolutely, yes.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, crazy. I mean, I've never had this experience. I don't think I would freak out the height aspect. I'm not afraid of heights. Thankfully, Fury's seats are very comfortable as it's restraints. Yeah. You're not on like a stand-up, thankfully, or something. But still, like, I get it. It's an hour is a long time, nonetheless, to be stuck somewhere, anywhere. But yeah, that's a pretty crazy moment. So thanks for sharing. Now, I'm going to ask the next question, but I would bet a lot of money on the answer. But what is your favorite coaster?
Oddly enough, this is an odd one for me to answer because everybody thinks it's Fury. And
right.
I mean, yes, Fury is like my girlfriend. I absolutely see Fury. I see Fury every day. I spend a lot of time with her. I spend more time with her than I do at home. Fury is definitely not near the top, but it's probably not my favorite.
Really?
Oddly enough, there's not a lot of coasters that I can ride without feeling sick after 2 or 3 rides. Even like Intimidator or Carowinds, 2 or 3 rides, and I'm like, oh gosh, I got to go sit down for a minute or two.
Really?
It's really strange. I don't really know why or how, but physiologically, most rides I can't handle. Lightning Rod at Dollywood gives me very, very similar feelings to Fury. And I can marathon it all day long. I would absolutely say Lightning Rod is my number 1 coaster, my favorite coaster, probably because I can't marathon it every day. I can't go see her every day.
Right.
But when I do, I mean, it's definitely amazing in itself.
Wow. Well, you got me there because where I was going. Everyone along with me thinks Fury is your favorite. So have you ridden Lightning Rod since the refurb with the iBox added and so forth?
Last July. Yeah. So that was my last ride. And we went with another couple, me and my partner, and we were hanging out and everything. And I'm like, I'm going to go ride Lightning Rod. So I was riding Lightning Rod while they went and did other things in the park, which it's hilarious, but it was really the only thing that really drew me there.
Interesting. And with the work they did, is it better for you now? The same?
It's the same. I mean, I don't feel really any difference.
Okay. At least it didn't get worse. Yeah.
Right.
It's still a coaster that you can marathon. So to your knowledge, I mean, there might be more out there, but at least for the ones that you're aware of and tried, Fury and Lightning Rod are the only ones that you can kind of re-ride marathon, that sort of thing, and not feel sick.
Yep. You know, I haven't really gotten the chance to ride Orion at all. I'm thinking it's probably similar to Fury. I don't know. You know, the thing with Intimidator after the mid-course brake run where it gets a little slower right at that helix at the camera, that's where I get sick. So I don't know if Orion has a piece or part of it near the end that might make me sick. But you know, every other ride, no other ride has given me the same feeling as those two. Has filled, you know, my dopamine receptors the way I like, I guess.
Right.
And those two have definitely been the ones that are important to me.
Interesting. Got it. Okay. So, what would you say is your least favorite coaster?
You know, it's probably, I don't ride many other coasters. If I had to say my least favorite coaster from the last ride that I rode it, which was, gosh, probably 10 years ago, would be like Vortex at Carowinds. Just the thought of it even makes me want to cringe. But I do remember riding it, and it's horrible. I don't know why it's probably still there because it's classic and it was one of the first B&Ms. So I get it, but I do not think it's comfortable or enjoyable at all.
So you're referring to Vortex that you said at Carowinds? Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
Up coaster.
You have to forgive me a little bit of.
You're fine
here. I am about a day away from flying to Ohio for the weekend from Orlando, really, to go to Kings Island for the whole weekend, spend it with a bunch of my friends, very close friends, and I've got Kings Island on the brain. So I do remember you now saying Carowinds when you first mentioned it, but I've got Kings Island on the brain. So I automatically went to Vortex at Kings Island.
Right.
And I was thinking, but then you said B&M. Okay, got it. Now I got it. Okay, that makes sense. So Vortex. Okay, that makes sense. Totally got it. Okay, well, for the most part, for the rest of the interview here, other than the last couple of questions, which are just general questions we always ask our guests, we're going to talk about Fury. So it's Fury time. So not just that we haven't talked about Fury already, but we're going to dig in. So, you know, we have to. You're the Fury guy. I mean, we have to.
Yeah.
So, okay. So first of all, you kind of already answered this sort of earlier, at least approximately, but when was the first time that you rode Fury? I know it was in the first season. You mentioned that.
Yeah. It was shortly after opening of the season. You know, it was, I don't remember an exact date or time. We weren't season pass holders, so we didn't have any of that, but it was probably late March, early April. So one of the first weekends that it was open. And, you know, I was like, hey, let's go ride this record-breaking coaster. Oddly enough, you know, I enjoyed it after the first ride, but I probably wouldn't have ridden more than once had I not lost my car keys. Very first time I rode, I lost my car keys, and boom, there they go. So luckily, my mom had another pair. You know, she had another set, but she was at work. So okay, well, I got to stay here longer. Why not ride again? So I rode a few more times, and after riding, you know, the second, third, fourth time, something was triggering up there. I'm like, okay, no, this is pretty amazing. So we converted our tickets to season passes. I'm like, I'm going to ride this more. And that started the glory that is Fury.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So what I thought you were getting at there until you explained further with your mom and all that you said that, you know, you would have not ridden it more than once had it been you lost your car keys on it. I'm like, oh, so you like kept riding it, try to find your car keys, looking everywhere. Like first going 95 miles an hour and then, you know, I'm like, where's my car keys? But no, okay, that makes more sense. You're like, okay, I'm stuck here, so why not ride it? Okay, got it. Very fortuitous as well. So you had mentioned earlier, after moving from Orlando back to North Carolina, is it North Carolina or South Carolina you live in?
North Carolina. We're in Indiana.
North Carolina. Yep. Okay. Because Charlotte is so close to both, but borderline. Of course, the park is very unique in that it is in both states, which is really cool. But
my parents live in South Carolina. They're right across the line in Fort Mill.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So you'd mentioned, you know, going on Intimidator because, oh, hey, it's a record breaking. It was at the time. And when you rode Intimidator, you were like, did you just ride it that one time, the first time you rode Intimidator?
Pretty much. We didn't have like a fast lane. I don't think there even was technically fast lane. Actually, I don't even know. But we didn't have season passes. It was really busy. We went for scare wins, so it was probably not the best time. And so we waited a long time to ride the one time. And then, it's like, hey, we've been here like 3 hours. Let's get out of here. So didn't really have the chance to ride more than once, or really even many more rides, but didn't really have the urge to ride more even after that.
Okay. And did you make any follow-up visits to Carowinds in the next, say, 4 or 5 years before Fury opened? So you only rode Intimidator that one time?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, it's tough to answer these kind of questions, but I love asking them, and it's kind of a fun thought exercise. But
absolutely,
if you hadn't lost your car keys, you said you probably would have just ridden that Fury once and gone home or whatnot. Do you think, say I've never lost anything on that coaster, never had a reason why, hey, you don't have anything better to do because you're stuck at Carowinds? Where, in other words, if every visit to Carowinds, including that first visit on when you rode Fury, where you could leave whenever you wanted, do you think you would have ever gotten this Fury bug and realized what Fury does for you?
Maybe, but there's a solid chance no, I wouldn't have been able to, because it takes probably 3 or 4 laps on it at least to really start feeling what I'm feeling that I'm addicted to. It gets much better after 15 or 20 or 30, but after those first few laps, had I not had the chance to do that, I probably would have just written it off. I might have written it again. I might have gone back with friends again at some point and picked up on it at some other point, but I don't think it would have started quite as quickly.
Interesting. And it all started because of you losing your car keys, something very bad.
Right.
Yeah. Which happens to us. Funny enough, I don't think I've ever lost anything personally at a park or on a coaster. I've always got my zipper pockets. But funny enough, actually, I think it was the first time I met you. I was there with my buddy Ryan, who lives here in Orlando. He's not a coaster enthusiast, but he's sort of an aspiring one. He's kind of become curious because of his friendship with me. And he lost, after riding Fury, after we met up with you, we went on Afterburn, and he lost his iPhone on Afterburn. And that kind of ended the day there. He started freaking out, because we want to make sure he has a phone. And so we wound up leaving Carowinds after that. And, I totally understood. I wasn't upset at all. And we went to the Apple store at a nearby mall and got him an iPhone. But then we went home. But anyways, it's funny enough that happened to Carowinds as well. But so I think there's a good lesson here. And one of the things I like to do on this podcast, and I never know when this might happen, is when there's a good lesson to kind of remind people about a life lesson, something that can help people. So, McLain, one of the overarching themes of this podcast, why we do what we do, well, David, myself, Kim, Nick, everyone else involved in the podcast, but why we spend all this time volunteering, is the mission of this podcast is very much related to positivity. It's about theme park therapy. It's about people making their lives better, but overall trying to have as positive a life as possible. And one of the things that I personally have learned through hardship, quite frankly, through trial and tribulation, and when I say hardship, I mean depression, very clinical, very bad depression, is to try to look for the positive in any situation. And what it's not 100%, but what I've developed a talent for is in almost any situation, something really bad that happens, I can find the positive. Giving you an example, I work from home, and COVID and everything that's the watershed from COVID from the past few years, a lot of negativity, a lot of bad stuff, some bad things and lingering things that last for years, the economy, whatever else may be. But one great thing that's come from the pandemic is opening up the eyes of management, upper management at corporations, to the idea that with technology we have today, that trust, extending trust to your employees, that maybe they will do the right thing, of having work from home on a large scale. And I love it because I can stay with my dogs. I have flexibility where I can work from anywhere, travel, and things, and so forth. The flexibility is amazing. So that's a good example of finding positive from something very negative.
Right.
Here we have your story about Fury, where you lose your car keys, which, hey, you got to think that's it's an annoyance. But because you lost your car keys, because, I have to give you credit right then and there. A lot of people, when something really bad happens, they get in a bad mood. And even if they're doing something fun or at a place that's fun, at a party, they're just in a bad mood. They're not enjoying themselves anymore. But credit to you, you looked at things right away from a practical perspective of like, hey, I like this coaster. I'm kind of stuck here for the time being. It's going to be okay because my mom's coming with the other set of keys. I might as well keep enjoying. So that's the first part. And you did it all on your own just right away. But because of that, and again, all this starting with losing the car keys, you discovered this amazing thing, which we're going to talk more about, and how much you love Fury and all that. So that is, again, finding the positive from a very negative situation. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you have that story. That's awesome. That's fantastic. So let's talk about the 325-foot tall elephant that's been in the room this entire interview. So I've been alluding to it. You've been hinting at it. So, I know from talking to you, I don't know the details yet, which I purposely did not want to know all the details until we did the interview. But I know that Fury is not just about having fun for you. It's not just about, you marathon it because it's one of your favorite coasters or because you can ride it so much. There's something deeper here. So tell myself and tell the Coaster Challenge audience, why is it that you ride Fury so much?
Yeah. So I'll try to make the long story not so long, but
no, that's okay. That's okay.
In my senior year of high school, 2002, I had to graduate in 2003, the December of 2002, I got into a pretty bad car accident. I suffered some pretty nasty brain trauma. I was in rehab for a couple years after. The side of my face is rebuilt. It's beautiful, but it's rebuilt from different parts of me. I had to be in physical therapy, mental therapy, and still even see or am in tune with the traumatic brain injury testing that goes on often. So I've recovered a whole lot. But one of the unique things with brain injury is normal methods don't work. So before I had the accident, I had been diagnosed with bipolar 2 and depression and almost everything, just almost misdiagnosed, trying to figure out what's wrong or what's going on. But after the accident, no medication, not a single medication worked. And I still suffered from pretty bad anxiety, sometimes some pretty heightened manic episodes and things that I couldn't control. But because of the brain trauma, regular chemistry and regular medicines wouldn't work. So we tried everything and continued to try everything. And the only thing that really seemed to work with me was music. A certain type of music, usually electronic or drum and bass, something with something like a 4 on the floor beat that my brain can follow and kind of be very predictable. That coupled just with meditation usually seemed to help. But I couldn't find the right thing ever. Fast forward to Fury. After those few times of riding Fury, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I just got extremely anxious. And you said it yourself, losing your car keys, like, crap, what's going on? Your emotional level goes through the roof. You're a little too anxious. You get a little manic. You get crazy. But after I rode a few times, I realized, wait a minute, those feelings that I just like went through the roof that usually would take me multiple hours or even days to calm down and get back, they're already gone. I'm feeling amazing. I'm so calm. I can go to sleep tonight. I can actually sleep well. So I realized, I'm like, yes, got to get a season pass, got to do this more. In the first year, I continued to ride. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to marathon or ride 20 times. And, I didn't get a chance to ride at the volume that I ride today, but I realized there was something there. Near the end of the first season, I got the unique idea that, wait a minute, if music is so powerful by itself and Fury seems to be doing something to me, what if I couple the two together? What if I create a playlist and some of my best therapeutic songs that help me with, that certain beat or that certain euphoria, what if I pair that with the coaster? So I started building a playlist of songs that have helped me in the past. When I timed them out, I figured out that, okay, where do I need to start this song so the drop or the euphoria of the song happens at the drop of the ride? So I figured that out at about 150 laps near the end of the first season. And I was like, holy crap, that moment right there is when it kind of put fuel on the fire. I was like, man, this is amazing. It really changes me. It changes who I am and what I am, because what I've been doing for years with the music is now coupled with this new feeling of euphoria and this new adrenaline rush that I'm getting from Fury is amazing. Second year with Fury in 2016, I was like, okay, now I've got a plan during the whole off season, because I only got to riding like 130 or 140, or rather 180, 190 rides in the first year. In the off season, I'm like, I've got to build a playlist. I've got to make this right. And I was prepared the next season to make it happen. There was no season pass fast lane, so I wasted a lot of money on fast lanes because waiting in line wasn't going to cut it for me. So I think I spent something over like $2,500 in that first year because there was no season pass fast lane, but I was going to do it. And then I began riding 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in an hour. I'm like, crap, this is amazing. And so I started doing 10, 20 in a day. Finished the first year at just over 1,000 rides, or the second year, just over 1,000 rides, 1053. But I knew I'd found something really special. So again, in the off season, I'm like, gosh, let me just keep, molding these songs, finding these songs that are going to work. The next year in 2017 was the first year of all season fast lane, which was amazing, saved a ton of money. But it also was the first year that the park started to recognize me. So the executives like Pat and Lisa and a handful of the others and all of the ride associates started to know who I was. Hey, you're that guy, and that's where the Fury guy came from. Actually, one associate at the very front of the park that always used to give me my fast lanes that first year of all season, her name was Angelique. She's still at the park. That's where Fury guy came from, because she didn't remember my name, but she always be like, you're that Fury guy, aren't you? Yeah, you're that Fury guy. So that's where Fury guy came from. That third year, everybody started, talking about me, and that's where it was. And that's where I started having the ability to re-ride and ride 10 times in an hour, 15 times. And it's like, holy smokes, this really is life-changing. Just the combination of dopamine and adrenaline after like 15 rides, it really builds up to a point where it can sustain me for a few days. So if I have a really bad day at work, and I was the retail manager at Best Buy for years, I have a bad day at work, wanted to choke somebody, I go to Fury, I ride 15 or 20 times, I'm solid. And even if I don't go back the next couple of days, that level of dopamine and that builds up just stays with me, which is amazing. Same thing in 2018, I rode a little over 2,100 times, 2019, 1,800 times. And, it's really just all been in the rear view from there. It's something now that almost I require myself to do, at least while it's open. Friends and family, and even like my old boss, my old GM at Best Buy, when I was his ASM, he was like, man, we can tell a difference during the off season. You are not the same person, and it's noticeable. I don't have the same coping mechanisms that I do with Fury during the off season. So it's definitely affected me. I don't know what I'd do without it. I would obviously get by, but I think I'm a much happier, calmer, satiable person during the season. And almost anybody that knows me well will tell you that. So, so happy I found it. So very lucky that I found it. Can't believe that I found it. And it's so strange that the brain is so unique. Whatever chemicals are firing with this music and this ride is, I'm grateful and will forever be grateful for.
Wow, that's an incredible story. Like I said, kind of preface with this question, I knew the very basic aspect of this because you had shared it with me, but didn't know the details, I knew that it helped you with regard to your brain injury, but that's all I knew. I didn't know the specifics and what it specifically helped you with and to what degree. So a few things to unpack here. So first of all, with regard to the music, so how is it that you're able to listen to music under? And what kind of headphones do you use? Because I mean, obviously it's a very fast ride and forceful, and
I use an older pair of headphones. They're Bluetooth 2.0, if that says anything. I've had to order a few refurbished pairs because they're one of the first pairs of the LG Tones, the around the neck Bluetooth headphones, but they're pretty thick and bulky. And you pull the little earphones out and put them in, but they fit under my shirt. So they're not going anywhere. They're there. And I've tried newer headphones, newer designs, and they're either not loud enough or not heavy enough, and I feel like they're going to be lost. So I just keep getting that older pair and finding refurbished ones or whatever. But a pair of headphones every single time.
Wow. Okay. And as far as I get it that it goes around your neck, I've seen those kind. That way it's on you, it's secure. But with regarding to going in your ear, is it like buds that go in your ear?
Yeah, they're earbuds. Yeah,
and they stay in on Fury.
Yeah. I mean, they're not like AirPods that are like passive. They do have like the tips or the nibs or whatever that go down in your ear. They're pretty tight in my ear canal, which helps for the wind, keeps some of the wind out. But yeah, they definitely stay in.
Got it. Okay. Very, very interesting. So just one more comment about the headphone aspect of this.
Yeah.
So in case you ever can't find headphones like that, just to give you a recommendation. This might help listeners as well, which is why I'm just going and saying during the interview. One type of headphones that I use, because I'm not that this is unusual.
Yeah.
Human beings in general, we're drawn to music. Music's a big part of a lot of our lives. Plus, I love listening to podcasts. So I'm listening to audio a lot on the go.
Yep.
And I travel a lot. So one type of headphone that I sometimes use, not often because AirPods are so amazing, but I use these sometimes before AirPods, is bone conducting headphones. And they go around your head and they're not in your ear. They don't have to stay in your ear. They go below your ear. Have you tried those by chance? Or
I have. The issue, or not really even issue I had, they worked well. They weren't loud enough. And I think they weren't loud enough because the wind in my ears, because they weren't in my ears, canceling out some of that wind. It was difficult to enjoy the experience. I definitely gave those a shot.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I didn't think about all the wind noise because you don't have anything covering your ears with bone conducting headphones and on Fury. That would be, that makes sense. Well, I'm glad you found a solution. That's amazing. So would it be like a dream of, well, I guess it'd be tricky, but would it be theoretically a dream of yours? Because B&M has done this. I think they have they call it a music coaster. I think it's in China. They built one where they have onboard audio. Of course, the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk here at Iron's Adventures. Would you love it if it had onboard audio and maybe with the right soundtrack as well? Or
I mean, it really has to do with the songs. It has to do, if they had those songs and timed out accurately, then absolutely. One of the things that has kind of helped me more in the last couple of years, because I've re-listened to a handful since I've only got like 400 tracks, is during the off season, because I know these songs so well, I can sometimes get that same like skin tingly feeling just from listening to the song cranked up, because I'm like, gosh, I listened to that 40 times this year, Riding Fury. I can almost close my eyes and imagine it. I mean, I think if the songs were right and B&M timed it right, I think it could be awesome and maybe even help some people.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking about, is if you found like, it's almost like a resonance thing, which happens in physics and in nature and whatnot. Maybe if you've locked onto something that could, help people without them even realizing it. I certainly believe in things like this because there's certain, I love soundtracks, instrumental scores. I love electronica. I love, pop music. I'm very eclectic with music. But there's certain music, especially cinematic scores, instrumental scores, that I listen to again and again. Like you and I are on social media. You might have seen me post about this. You could say obsessed is too strong of a word, but I freaking love Top Gun Maverick. It's such an incredible movie.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, for me, that makes it so amazing, that for a lot of people they probably glance over, is the score. The score is incredible. It's very triumphant. and it's got a huge crescendo and a big scene at the end, which I won't mention. I don't want to give anything away, but there's something about music that can it can bring us up, it can bring us down, and I know that with having gone through depression multiple times in my life, music therapy is a real thing. So you locked into that. So now you mentioned the management at Carowinds has taken notice. Have they ever talked to you about the music part of it, like where they're kind of curious about it, or they don't? Yeah.
Not really. The few people that I have talked to in the past few years, Lisa was a big proponent of it. And Courtney this year, I've met their PR. Even what was the name? Sean from years and years ago. The unique thing is they let me ride how I ride. I tried when I was getting to 5,000 laps. I was like, hey, do a story on me. Hey, somebody recognized me. And they're like, no, we're not going to really do anything from the park standpoint, but we encourage you to, make a Facebook, make a Twitter, make an Instagram. And, it was Facebook first, and they wanted me to make a Twitter and Instagram. But I think the cool thing about it is the crew knows. The crew, almost all of them know, and a handful of them know very discreetly which songs and what songs I ride with, and think that it's awesome. And I think that's a bigger boon for me, because they recognize what's going on, and they're able to take care of me in the moment with them at Fury while I'm riding with them.
That's awesome. That's amazing. That's really cool. Now, you mentioned that a few of them know discreetly the song. So what do you mean? Can you expand upon that?
Really just there's a few on the crew that are very musical and very music driven as well, and have asked before, have said, what are you listening to? What's going on? And they actually encouraged me to kind of create a video, with a POV of Fury, and then try to splice in my songs the way that I listen to them, and make it so that you can watch a video and almost experience what I hear.
Yeah.
So I've done a few, and they're all on my Facebook. They're probably all the way near the bottom now, because I've posted so much about Fury, but it definitely it's made a few people just go, wow, oh my gosh, I think I need headphones next time I ride. Namely a few ride associates.
I will have to check that out. And of course, you and I are connected on Facebook. Facebook, when you look at someone's profile, you can look at just for videos, and I'll see if I can find them. If not, I'll let you know, because maybe you can get me linked to them some other way. I'm very curious to check this out. I'm definitely intrigued. So interesting. So the other main area I want to talk about with regard to your answer to this question before we move on, and the most serious of it, so I kind of left it for last, is something, again, I can relate to as well, and a lot of our listeners I'm sure can relate to. I've not been shy at all, as someone that is an interviewer here and a producer on here in this podcast. I talk, about myself and relate to my guests, as I've been doing here. So I think that's the best way to do an interview, is to relate to the person you're talking to, and not just have it be back and forth and so forth, not interactive. Listeners here of the show, and then the other producers and friends and everything, they all know that I'm bipolar, and I've had 3 depressions in my life. And so what you shared about, that in fact this brain injury, exacerbated, the anxiety and the bipolar, in terms of, medication stopped working, which is like a nightmare. It can be a nightmare for anyone that has those afflictions. Certainly I would see it as oh my God, nightmare, and how am I going to deal with this? And you were able to find another solution, which is incredible. I would like to talk to you a little bit about this. So, so basically you have not, so anxiety can be episodic. It can be here and there. And, there are different ways to treat it, stress relief and self-care and all that. But, and I'm not trying to, I want to make this clear, especially for our audience. I'm not trying to diminish the severity of anxiety, not at all.
Right.
But as someone who has dealt with anxiety in my life, coupled with depression and so forth, someone that's also bipolar, and someone that's not been medicated at times, I know how difficult it is to navigate bipolar disorder without medication, literally navigating those ups and downs, not the good ups and downs on coasters, but the emotional ups and downs of bipolar disorder, that it is so challenging to live with bipolar disorder and live a responsible, successful life, career-wise, partners, friends, etc., without medication. So I'm just very curious about this. So you have not used medication to treat your bipolar disorder for how long now?
It's probably been since 06 or 07.
Wow.
It was right through college. And I'd found a really good doctor while I was in college, and we tried a few medications there near the end, and every medication prior either hadn't worked or had just turned me into a zombie. And it's like I'm not going to take a medication to just turn me into a zombie, and I'm not going to have any emotional experience in life.
Right.
Or it just wouldn't work, just plain wouldn't work. So probably 06, really when I moved from that doctor, I just went cold turkey almost. And I want to try, I need to find something. Medications aren't working. I need to find an alternate method. So music had always been my thing, but I refocused and doubled down on music and doubled down on, the best way to listen to music in a quiet space and, in a dark space, and finding the right settings to make the most impact. But yeah, I've been off medication since 06, so 16 years.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, you found that combining the music and Fury was much more effective. So, and again, feel free to answer this to whatever degree you feel comfortable, but
sure.
From say 06, 07 till 2015, when Fury opened, discovered Fury, for those 8 years, did you have more challenges? Did you have, manic episodes, depressive episodes, versus say after Fury came into the equation?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say without a doubt, it was a constant struggle. I felt like the bigger thing of it was I was a lot more introverted, or a lot more, I just kept to myself. Cause either I was going through one of the episodes up or down and didn't want anybody to see me that way or be that way. Or I just didn't want to go out into the world and risk having some type of episode.
Right.
And it's funny. My therapist even now, says you're really fine and don't need therapy from, March to November. It's really just November to March that we need to focus on, which is kind of funny, but is definitely true.
Interesting. So since Fury came into play, at least March to November every year, or when the parks open,
yeah,
are you pretty rock solid? Like, have
Absolutely.
You had it? Wow.
Yeah, it's very rare. I can't even think of the last time I had a severe episode, or an episode that I couldn't control. I'm much more able to recognize something, or recognize that something's about to get me to a bad point and pull it back in. So life is still going to happen. You're still going to have those things that an old school McLain or maybe off season McLain would spiral me up and just make me crazy for days.
Right.
But during the season, I'm able to notice them. I'm able to react. I'm able to either find a coping mechanism to work around them, or just ignore it and nothing happens.
Right.
It's definitely life-changing.
Right.
And all of my friends and family notice it. They all can tell and will say, oh gosh, I can tell you're riding the wave. When, it's funny. Yeah, I am after 30 or 40 rides, I'm high. I'm not high, but I'm riding a massive wave of dopamine that lasts me, a few days, which is amazing.
Yeah. So one of the things I've talked to friends about, just generally out about at parks, and, not necessarily here on the show, but I've also talked to people on the show about here on the podcast, is that we as coaster enthusiasts, I know you don't identify as one, but you in certain ways are one, but how you are with coasters and how us coaster enthusiasts are, we are very lucky in many ways, but one of them is that we get these natural highs, the dopamine, the adrenaline, in healthy ways, albeit some coasters can beat us up. You know, when I marathon voyage at Hollywood Nights this past year and got 20 plus rides across 2 nights, I was pretty beat up afterwards. But you know, most of the time coasters, you know, Fury doesn't beat me up. Fury's very easy to ride, and most coasters I ride, they don't physically affect me, you know, in that, you know, in a bad way. But I'll, you know, but anyway, so we get to, you know, in an easy way, in a fun way, usually speaking, get these natural highs where, you know, sadly, there are millions of people at any given time in the world that are seeking those same things, but in very, very different, dangerous, and oftentimes deadly ways, you know, especially with drugs and alcohol. And, you know, we're so lucky in that regard. And you're like an epitome of that in certain ways. Have you, well, first of all, I'm assuming that you pretty much are always there opening day for Fury and the very last day that Fury runs before Winterfest, right?
Definitely,
yeah. As much as you, okay. Have you been on Mako?
I have, yep.
And Mako couldn't be a off-season replacement for Fury? No?
Nope, I love it. It's great. But that little moment, kind of like Intimidator, right when it kind of hits that little mid-course brake run and then does its little like fishtail thing at the end.
Yeah.
Nope, 2 or 3 times and I'm done. I can't handle that, which is crazy because the first half is amazing.
Right.
It's great. But yeah.
The first half of Mako is very different than the second half. I'm much more familiar with Mako than Intimidator because I live here and I've been on Mako many more times. But yeah, I can understand why the second half, or for that matter, one of the halves would work for you and the other could be deleterious because they're very different. I totally get it. Yeah, interesting. So, well, that leads me to the question then. Since Fury has opened and since you've developed this music and this very, very interesting, very amazing, fascinating kind of prescription for yourself, if you will, what happens from November to March?
You know, it's double down on the music, stay with the ones you love, stay close to them, and you know, I don't want to say that I introvert more or I keep to myself more, but I probably subconsciously just keep to myself more and try to avoid the flames of life.
I see. So you try to avoid stressful situations, you know, taking risks, so to speak, mentally.
Right. Yep.
And that works pretty well for those, for that 1/3 of the year. Right.
Yeah. You know, I do have a few episodes, like almost every off season. There's like a couple times where it's just like, oh gosh, then you get to the top. And I've luckily been through therapy for so many years that when it happens, I can recognize it's happening even in those times when it's hard to control. I've got decent coping mechanisms that allow me to pull it back in. It might take a day, it might take 2. It might even take almost a week in some cases to really get my mind back where it needs to be. But you know, I just keep rolling, keep pushing through, and you'll figure it out. Unfortunately.
Right. Wow. Well, for me, I feel very fortunate in terms of that. You know, and I make jokes. I mean, I have a lot of friends in Ohio. I'm blessed with, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing quite a few of them this weekend. And, you know, Thursday friends, of course. And you know, there's a lot of jokes that go on between us. Kim is one of them. Kim's not in Ohio. She sort of is an Ohio enthusiast. She lives in Louisville, but she's at Kings Island all the time and all that. But, and there's a lot of jokes or people talk about looking for an opening day. And I'm like, what's this opening day thing you're talking about? Because I'm hearing all that. You know, it's just, we all joke with each other. That's what, you know, laughter is great medicine too. And all that. You know, anyways. But all that said, all jokes aside, you know, must look forward to opening day in a much more profound way than anyone else, right? I mean,
from the day I get off the ride until it opens, I have a counter on my phone. It counts down the days, the minutes. I mean, I know, and absolutely will know. You know, and it's funny during the off season, especially when I was working in a store. When I was around the same people every day, you know, people will come up to me that know me and be like, hey, how many days? And just saying that, I'm like, oh, 122, you know, oh, 97. And I know, I count down the days. I can't wait. it's unique. But yeah, I definitely, I count the minutes almost.
I'm just so blown away by this story. I mean, and that should say something, because this podcast, what we do is we talk to people about how coasters are good for them. Right. And, I'll post on, my friend Joey, one of my friends in Ohio, he was posting that he's getting some therapy today. He literally said that at Kings Island. And I said theme park, and I commented theme park therapy is real. And I comment that periodically, but I swear, with your story, it's so amazing. I'm half joking here, but I'm trying to make a point at the same time. You should be able to take your season pass that you get for Carowinds and be able to write that off as a medical expense. I swear.
Man, I mean, gosh, I completely agree.
Right? But I mean, all jokes aside, the main thing is that you get that therapy, not so much that you can write that off. Do you just get like a gold pass, I'm guessing, right?
I mean, we've gotten a platinum pass the last few years because
really?
We occasionally make trips up north, and we'll hit like a Kings Island or a Cedar Point. We didn't last year. We're hoping to this year, but I've just got it on auto renew. So it's continued to auto renew, and I haven't downgraded myself to gold, even though I could probably save a few bucks. But still, just in case. Yeah, I mean, if we happen to pop out to a park, or we're thinking of doing something this weekend, don't know what. Who knows? Maybe drive to Kings Island. We've got the luxury to do it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's just $200 instead of 100 something. So it's not the end of the world, and gives you that, you get other benefits too that you can still use at your park and all. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So how was 2020 for you? Because Carowinds
disgusting. Oh yeah. It was bad because I was counting down the days and even, the like 3 or 9 days before the opening date, before they had announced they pushed back opening, I was going to see my therapist. I'm like, yes, oh my gosh, we're less than 10 days. And like, I already had some of that adrenaline built up in me just from the anticipation of it. And they're like, they pushed it back a month. I'm like, okay, let me reset my timer. It's only a month. And then they pushed it back again. And it was very difficult, but that's one of those things. It's life. You got to push through, got to do your very best, and double down on the things that do help outside of those, and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, love the positive attitude. That's great. And unfortunately, with what happened with Carowinds in 2020, that is a negative side or negative impact of it. Carowinds covering 2 states because I deal with both states' regulations on COVID. Yep. And, well, thankfully, 2021 was a lot better. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so what is the most number of rides that you've ever gotten on Fury in one day? Do you have that information?
108. And that was back in that was early back in 2017. Really, when I would dedicate a whole day, like, hey, I'm going to go to Fury on Saturday and just ride and re-ride and then get lunch, then ride some more. And it was a whole day. It was a day of greatness. But 108, I haven't done nearly that much recently, and I probably won't do that anymore. Back in 2016 and 17, I really hadn't built Fury into my life as much as I have now. So I didn't visit as many times. So I thought I've got to make the most out of the times I visit. Now I ride my range. It's kind of big, but it's 15 to 40 or so a day. And it's almost every day. Like today's visit with Kim was my 49th visit to the park this year. And I visit, I visited every day this week after work. I finish up at 4:35. Luckily I can make my own schedules and do whatever needed, but finish up, gosh, park's open for 5 more hours. Let me go get 20 laps in. I'll just go and get, 15 to 40. And I never go for a number. I just go until I start to feel good. Some people tell me I go until I start to yawn because I guess when I leave, I'm yawning a lot because it just rushes me with so much dopamine that I get nice and cuddly to myself. But I'll just ride till I yawn.
Right. So getting that 15 to 40 in a given visit, granted, you sometimes go days in a row, but even if you didn't go days in a row, getting that 15 to 40 is good for a few days for you. It keeps
absolutely.
You going.
Yeah,
right.
It's residual for, I would say, 2 to 3 days at least.
So do you ever, well, since 2015, have you gone on vacations where you're not necessarily using that Platinum Pass and going to Kings Island, or where you go out of the country, or you're just sightseeing, you're going on a regular vacation, so to speak? Have you done that where you've kind of bulked up on Fury and then gone away for a week? Or
most definitely, yeah. Our anniversary is usually in May, and I'll usually ride a good chunk before we go. It's funny. I would even, if we're leaving Friday morning or something, I'm like, hey, we got to leave like at 11 or 12 because I got to get at least an hour or two of Fury in. So yeah, I definitely bulk up before I go anywhere, as much as I can, and I think in the last few years or couple years, I've not been as stringent on, I absolutely have to go right this second, but any moment that I've got the opportunity, you better believe I'm going to take it, and I will be butt in seat on Fury.
Wow. Now, are you, by the way, you're still with your partner from college? So how long have you guys been together?
We've been together. We just celebrated our 16th year back in May.
Congratulations, number one. That's amazing.
Thank you. It is, absolutely.
I have to say, your vigilance, your stick-to-itiveness, and your creativity with your therapy, your self-care, the music, and then building in Fury, and then combining the two, and in rigorous detail, the way you figured out your tracks and all that. That's a testament to your relationship, staying together, keeping together with the same person, because dealing with anxiety, depression, bipolar, unchecked, it makes it very difficult to keep a relationship going. So
absolutely.
So that's amazing. And that's a nice gift that you have from all that you've put in. So that's fantastic. That's amazing. That's awesome. So do you have any special stories you'd like to share, from those almost 9,000 rides on Fury? Any gems?
I would have to say the gems that I have are the Zen rides. I'm sure you're aware of what a Zen ride is.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's getting the whole train to yourself.
Yeah.
The crew thought I was nuts the first year, but every 1,000th lap, they've given me an empty train. I've gotten 2 outside of the 1,000 in there as well. So I'm up to 10 Zen rides right now. Hopefully getting my 11th probably Sunday, if they're able to accommodate with lap 9,000. But those are the best rides easily. I mean, they're amazing at what they are. They're super quiet because usually I can't hear people screaming anyway because I've got headphones in, but people scream pretty loud. And if you got one beside you or right behind you, you're going to hear them even through the music. So, I mean, just the super quiet rides. They're really, really fast. I've had the opportunity to have the Commons photo people take really good pictures of me the last few times. So I've got good memories of that, but definitely I would say those are my special times that I'm really proud of. And I'm happy the park allows me to have them.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And actually with the photos, you just reminded me of something else I want to ask you. But before I get to that, you mentioned when you were talking about the Zen rides in the beginning here, that the crew thought you're crazy. So was it your request for the Zen rides? Is that what you're getting at?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And it was driven by the peacefulness of it?
Yeah. Like, it'd be so cool to have a ride by myself. Why not? Hey, can you give me a free ride? And Claudius, one of the ride soups, who's still there today, which is amazing, was there in year 1, year 2. And he was like, hey, yeah, we're going to take care of you. Make sure you come here for the first lap on this day or whatever. So, I mean, it was a timed out, it wasn't the middle of the day and hey, we're just going to let it happen. We had to plan it and everything, but was very fortunate they did. And yeah, I absolutely requested it.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm glad it's special for you, and I hope that you are able to get for your 9,000th ride, hopefully this weekend, in the holiday weekend too. To get your Zen ride. That's I hope that works. That's awesome. You mentioned photos. Of course, you have fun pics, I'm assuming, right? So that day that I met up with you, because I've been to Carowinds a couple times this year. First time was before I I was friends with him on Facebook, but I had not made the connection. Oh, he's the Fury guy, and I should meet up with him. But, because I was there opening night, the season pass opening night. I'm guessing
very cool.
Too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was just there for the end of the day, as I got up there late because of traffic coming from Orlando. But in any case, when I met up with you, when I was there with my friend Ryan, you mentioned, about getting, you'll get the fun pick photos to us later, which you did.
Yeah.
And don't take this the wrong way, because you follow me here. When you said that, I was like, oh, he's not going to be able to get the photos to us. Like, that was nice of him to say that. The reason why I'm saying that, and I was happily surprised when you got the photos to me, is because, again, you jump around the train and everything, and you're not getting the photos each lap, right? You get them at the end. So how are they getting all your photos? They know to look for you and they save them for you, or what?
So no, some years they have. In some years there's a certain one or two people at the photo booth downstairs like, oh, McLain's here. Let me just start putting his photos in the queue. But I've actually come up with a great system myself that I track the rides as I'm riding. So if I ride 3 times in a row, maybe I ride in row H and then or row 8 rather, and row 1, and then maybe row 3. So those 3 rows, if I rode 8, 1, 3, then my code would be CAH. And then when I get off the ride, my last ride was number 3, it was C. So I'm 13C, but then I'm also on, if there's 3 trains, 1, 2, 3, I'm also on 10H. Oh yeah, and I'm also on 7A.
Oh wow.
So I just count back and I keep all that usually in my mind and jot it down when I can. But at the end of the day, the commons people up front at the Fun Picks booth, I usually have a list. I'm like, hey, here's a list of 28, here's a list of 31. Can you get them all for me? And they know me really well. So they're like, yeah, sure. And it takes a minute or two, but they'll get them all in and connect them up to my account.
Okay, gotcha. Now, I would understand certainly, like when we rode with you, because for you to get the photos to me, or maybe because you're riding with a friend, like to have that. But do you care about the photos even when it's just you riding with a bunch of strangers? Do you want all those photos?
I pay for the Fun Picks pass anyway, the $50. So why not? But in the probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when I got over 5,000, I'm like, I've ridden 5,500 times. Oh, I've ridden 6,000 times. There's always going to be those people who are naysayers. No, you didn't. There's no way you're doing that much. Oh my gosh. So I'm like, why don't I just post these pictures? I've got them. So they're all on my Facebook. You can go to my albums and look at all of my pictures.
It's proof. Right.
And so I'm like, hey, I'm not going to fight with you. I don't really care if you think I've ridden that many or not. Why don't you just go to my page and you can see for yourself. So yeah, it's usually really just for validation for them. I couldn't really care less about it, but it's good to have them, I guess.
Right. No, that makes sense. It could almost be fun. I don't know. I don't know how to create one of these. I'm always in awe when I see them. Those, like, hard to describe, but like they're like posters or it can be digital pictures as well, where it's made up of a whole bunch of individual pictures, but then yeah. How amazing would it be for, like, I don't know, like your 10,000th ride, if you could, or you or someone that can do one of those, can take all your fun picks and like make it, make the Lift Hill of Fury or part of the Track of Fury or something, or
that would be nuts.
That would be so appropriate and so like epic. But that would be amazing. But anyway, just maybe
great idea.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, if you wind up doing that, please let me know. I want to see that, because that would be.
I'm going to look for it now. I've got to research about it.
Okay, no, awesome. If I would be so thrilled to be able to give you an idea like that, because how much fear means to you. That's amazing. That'd be amazing. So, wow, this has been quite a journey. There's got a couple last questions for you. These questions we ask all of our guests.
Sure.
So, the first question is, what advice can you give those that are listening? I mean, you've already shared some gems, but any final piece of advice?
The biggest thing that I would say in any walk of life, not just riding coasters or anything, is never give up and never look back. I mean, what's happened in the past might be tough, might be hard, and might have taught you a lot, but there's no reason to ever dwell on it. There's no reason. It's behind you. There's no reason to make your future endeavors lesser because of something that's happened in the past. And you got to just keep moving, even when when you got speed bumps or when you got bumpy water, the best thing that you can do is just buck up and keep moving. And it can be hard as hell sometimes. I get it, but that's the only way that you're going to succeed in anything. Keep trying, keep moving forward.
Absolutely. And you're a testament to that, McLain. I mean, you went through this horrible car accident, you know, the way you described everything, the aftermath of it, really awful car accident that impacted you in huge ways. Still went to college. And then, you know, as part of this, you were discovered that the mental challenges that you face that, you know, many hundreds of millions of people face around the world, things like bipolar and anxiety, if not more than a billion, quite frankly. You found that, you know, the typical treatment for that I don't know, probably 95% plus of those people, you know, like myself, use medication, no longer works, and how challenging that would be. And you still succumbed and surpassed and you know, and just triumphed over these illnesses that challenged you and fought them down, you know, with these amazing therapy you came up with, the music and Fury, and just that's, again, that's just what we're all about here in Coaster Challenge. You are a testament to our mission, and you know, I really appreciate you sharing that and sharing that final piece of advice. So Absolutely. Again, given how inspirational you are, McLain, you know, the last question here I think is appropriate, and that is, you know, how can people find you? I can imagine maybe that we have a couple listeners that listen to this, whether when it comes out or maybe down the line, where they might be facing some mental challenges. They might want to get some advice from you or whatnot. Yeah. How can people get a hold of you and find you, you know, website, social media, et cetera?
Sure. So really just social media, just 3 accounts right now. One on Facebook, McLain Waddell. You can probably find it with the Fury Guy. And then Twitter and Instagram, also the Fury Guy, the _Fury_ guy. But you honestly can just Google the Fury Guy and you'll probably find it. You know, the park has encouraged me to make a Snapchat and a TikTok for Fury, and I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know if I would actually create content for that or not. So for now, just those 3, but who knows, maybe in the future.
Great. Well, those are the 3 major social media networks, and certainly pretty much anyone out there pretty much is one of those. So that should work for the vast majority of people. So thanks for sharing. And again, thanks for joining me today and going through this journey with me and having this great conversation. Just incredibly profound. So thank you so much again, McLain.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to see more of us, we upload every Friday. And check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all at Coaster Challenge. Links are in the description below. Thanks for joining us here today.